If you're like me, you probably think that starting a video podcast is easy. Well, I'm here to tell you that we were wrong. It isn't easy. Now, I've only released 5 episodes so far, but I can tell you that there are already things that I wish I knew before I started. So to help make it much easier for you to start your own video podcast, here are 5 lessons about starting a video podcast that I wish I knew earlier. Lesson number 1, don't launch your podcast until you have at least 1 month's worth of content ready to post. At the beginning, I decided that I wanted to release 1 new podcast episode each week. I had 4 episodes filmed, then I launched my podcast with 3 episodes on day 1, and I left 1 in the backlog ready to post the next week. I also had 4 guests scheduled in the calendar ready to come in and record their episode. Plenty of time, right? Wrong. Turns out that soon after launch day, 1 guest canceled and the other guests rescheduled their recording time to 1 to 2 months out. So here I was with a brand new podcast and I already had to break my weekly release schedule after just the first week. The point here is that getting your first guest to commit and film is very volatile. So having a comfortable cushion of content to help you stay on schedule is super important. I don't see that volatility slowing down until I get at least 1 or 2 dozen episodes under my belt. For me, it's all about being consistent. I want to keep posting. I want to keep growing my audience. And as the podcast grows, it'll start to get easier and easier to book guests. Listen, I'm in your shoes right now. I know exactly how it feels. It's so hard to get guests to just come onto your show. It's intimidating to have to ask complete strangers to come sit down with you and talk to you for over 2 hours. To help with this, I developed a repeatable framework that I follow every single time I reach out to a potential guest, and it has gotten me a 73% email response rate. It's a simple step-by-step framework, and if you want to get a copy of it, use the link in the description below and I'll send you a copy for free. Lesson number 2, give yourself plenty of time to edit each episode. A lot of people think that creating a video podcast is a quick and easy way to produce lots of content for you and your business. Press record, do the show, post the content. But unless you and your guests are some kind of Broadway professionals, you're going to want to do some sort of post-production to clean up your recordings to make sure you post something that people actually want to watch. Just think for a minute about what you like to watch. Do you want to sit through a podcast where the host is struggling for 10 minutes trying to get someone unmuted on Zoom? Or do you want to listen to 2 people talking with long, awkward pauses in the middle of each exchange? No, you don't want to do that. So don't make the mistake of thinking you're special and that people will make an exception with your content, because they won't. Don't be lazy. Take out those awkward silences. Clean up some of the ums and the ahs and the likes. Use creative cuts or zooms to make things flow smoothly. Learn to properly edit your audio so it sounds pro. I personally vastly underestimated the time it would take for me to edit each episode, which led to some very late nights, which just isn't healthy or sustainable. And it might even take you longer, especially if you're learning new software and you don't have lots of experience with editing. Give yourself time. I schedule an editing ratio of 4:1. So for every hour of podcasting content I have, I plan to spend 4 hours editing. And it's not just about editing the one podcast, it's creating clips and shorts from the full episode, which you'll use to market and promote your podcast on social media. You'll need all these things to grow, so take the time to learn the art of editing. Learn to create content that audiences love to consume and share. That's how you'll grow organically. This is exactly what I'm doing, and granted, I'm not getting millions of views out there, but my shorts have already gotten over 12,000 views, which is slowly helping me create awareness to my podcast. Lesson number 3, practice improving your interview skills. I'm already convinced that the key to long-term success with podcasting is to be an interesting and engaging person to talk with. I don't care how good your video looks or your audio sounds. If you're boring to listen to or you ask dumb questions, your podcast is going to suck. You have to know how to bring about excitement and energy from your guests. Get them comfortable so they feel safe opening up about themselves and their values, and you'll see the quality of your content go through the roof. I know it's easier said than done. Lucky for me, I've had lots of experience with presenting and speaking throughout my career, and those skills have translated very well to podcasting. If you don't have any experience with public speaking and feel awkward talking to strangers, here are 2 things that you can practice that will help you improve. I know they work because I do them all the time. Number 1, video record yourself for 5 minutes talking straight into the camera. Play back that recording and observe how smooth you deliver your lines. Do you pause too much? Do you talk too fast? Or maybe a little bit too slow? Do you vary your speaking cadence? Do you accentuate important points? Do you use too many filler words? You'll be amazed at how quickly you can improve by doing deliberate and focused practice. Number 2, learn how to listen so you can pull out great questions. If you are new to podcasting, which you probably are because you're watching this video, I bet you have a million things going through your mind when you're recording every single episode. What's my next question? Am I even asking good questions? Is my guest feeling okay? Is the audio even recording? How do the cameras look? Is the video still recording? Did I leave the stove on? You need to calm your mind and just be in the moment. The conversation will flow if you let it. Try this. Pick your favorite podcast and start listening, but I want you to pretend that you are the host. As the guest is speaking, really listen to what they're saying. Think about what question you would ask if you were on the show. Just ask that question out loud and practice delivering that question as clear and as clean as possible. Keep doing that, and I guarantee you will get really good really fast. Lesson number 4, create a welcoming environment. Do you know what really sucks? When a guest takes time out of their busy day to come to your studio, they get there, and just before they get all settled in, they ask you for a cup of coffee, and you have to say, "I'm sorry, I don't have any coffee." Now, personally, I don't drink coffee, but you can bet that before my next guest gets here, there is absolutely going to be a coffee maker ready to go. Now, did my guest get insulted and leave? No. I'm sure they don't even remember, but that's not the point. We want to treat our guests as superstars because we know how hard it is to get people to say yes, especially as you're just starting out. Now, I'm not suggesting that we all have to go out and buy these fancy espresso machines or we have to order $300 worth of catering every time we have a new guest come in. We just need to have the essentials ready. Coffee, tea, water, maybe have some muffins or donuts ready as a snack. Make sure they know where the bathroom is. Make sure your space is clean, warm, and welcoming. If you know they love M&Ms, make them a small gift basket of candy that they can take home. If you treat your guests like gold, which they are, they will notice. Worst case scenario? Well, nothing comes from it. Best case, on the other hand, they are so impressed, they can't help but share their experience with their friends and colleagues, opening up doors for future guests and opportunities. Sounds pretty good to me. Lesson number 5, do not be afraid of long silences. I used to put a lot of pressure on myself during interviews to make sure the conversation never stopped. I did this because I didn't want to do any edits for fear that if I did, then I wouldn't be seen as authentic. But in reality, cutting out some extra spaces of silence because I took a moment to look down, read my notes to get the next question just right, that's not cutting away authenticity. Trust me, when you're filming, it's better to have a few moments of silence while you nail down your next question than it is to find yourself rambling on and on and on while you try to find the next question on the fly in your head. It usually doesn't end well, so don't do it. Take your time, find your question, and just remove the dead space in your edit. You'll still come across as authentic, plus your episode will flow much better, giving your audience a great listening experience. Pretty much every podcast out there, except for maybe Joe Rogan, they're editing their episodes. So don't be afraid to get in there and tighten up your show. Lesson number 6, be prepared to work hard. Even though in the beginning, I thought it would be easy enough to start a video podcast, I still knew it was going to be a lot of work. I just didn't know how much work it would actually be. It is hard work to make sure that every episode I'm able to give it 100% and that every episode I improve my skills even just a little bit so that I make each episode better than the one before. Even the amount of preparation and research for each podcast can be a lot. I've tried preparing by doing an excessive amount of research on each guest. I've also tried the opposite where I do no research and basically just wing it, but I ended up finding that I like something kind of right in between. I like doing some research and prep work, so I generally have an idea of how I want the show to flow, but I don't want to know too much because I don't want it to stop my curiosity, because that's what helps me listen and it helps me pull out those great spontaneous questions. So be prepared to work to develop your own style. Experiment with different techniques on how you put your episodes together. Work to find your voice and what works for you. And in 2 years, well, I'll see you at the top of the podcast charts. Now, if you want to know a bit more about the specific things that I'm going to be doing to climb to the top of the podcast charts, watch this video right here.